Alright, I know that I am live on YouTube, but this is kind of a test stream. If you guys will excuse me for a second. I am also trying to set up a simulcast with my Periscope. So those of you that follow me on Periscope, please, let me see here. I think I can multi-stream right now. Might not be working. So let me see here. Anyway, let's just do YouTube for now. We'll have to do it a different time. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some general topics, maybe for the next 20 minutes. This weekend, I had a couple videos, one of them concerning PDVSA and the transfer of funds to Russian banks, which I think, let's not talk about this in terms of, the U.S. versus Russia, Venezuela versus America. It does show Venezuela is a lot more dependent on Russia than it would need in order to be a healthy, independent country. And that's part of it is because of our sanctions and because of all of the pressure that the U.S. is applying on them. So I've really tried to do my best to maintain an honest opinion there and not put my thumb on the scale, for example, for this new governing group that are under Juan Guaido, who, to be honest with you, I don't know enough about to really support him. So, I hope you guys are keeping an open mind, because that's what I try to do. I don't want to just be some sort of cheerleader for, the Trump administration or for, anybody who is opposing Russia, for example, or opposing any of the other countries that are invested there, because realistically, we have an issue in Latin America where these countries need to be strong enough that they're not being taken advantage of by other countries, and that would include us. It's not just Russia and China. So, one can hope. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but that's my position, and I don't think that I'm being wrong and being selfish for not supporting the U.S. position on it, even though I understand the frustration of a lot of Venezuelans who are supporting some U.S. intervention. There's a lot of ones that are here in the States who have been waiting for years for their country to be more free and have greater liberties. But, I don't think it's worth creating a new intervention force or anything like that. Now, other issues that I want to talk about. This Green New Deal really washed over the entire political landscape this weekend, and it was a disaster, in my opinion, for Nancy Pelosi. Okay? Why is it bad for Nancy Pelosi? Well, it could have been worse if she would have just, what happened with Obama, if she would have said, well, we're going to support the Green New Deal, and then we'll read about it, like she did with Obamacare. That was one of the most ridiculous statements she ever made. And I think that people rightly castigated her for, passing a policy back in 2009, I think it was, that frankly a lot of the members of Congress didn't understand. And Republicans do that too. But in that case, you had basically Congress and the president were promising the solution to all of the medical cost problems that the American people had. And they put out this massive PR campaign on their website. And it was the biggest flop of any domestic policy that I know about. Okay? I could be wrong, but that's the way I look at Obamacare. And the Green New Deal, at least she learned a lesson and said, you know what, we're going to table this discussion and we'll entertain any idea that comes. That's Nancy Pelosi. And, she made a wise choice of not really embracing it, which I'm not really going to go into right now. But well, let's talk a little bit about the mindset of the Democratic Party as this election season begins. You know, it's bizarre to think that it's only February 2019, but people are already talking about the next election. Well, what are they supposed to talk about? Are they supposed to talk about the Kim Jong-un summit with Donald Trump? Because I feel that for some reason the media doesn't see that as newsworthy. But they do find it newsworthy that Amy Klobuchar declared for president. You had Elizabeth Warren declared for president, even though her campaign is most likely to be just a comedy of errors, and it already is. You have the state of Virginia is melting down due to the blackface controversy, as well as sexual assault allegations. This is the toxic cocktail that we're going through with the Democratic Party, and it's more than that. So when I wrote that article a couple years ago, it was kind of, it was a little tongue in cheek, but the fact is that I really believed, and I do to this day, that eventually identity politics are going to literally lead to the Democratic Party assassinating itself. It's unbelievable, and I'm not the first person, and I'm not going to be the last person who talks about it this way. In fact, it's just become more and more of a common issue among people that they seem to see that this Democratic Party is not necessarily working with a full deck. So I wrote this in 2016. This was my personal blog, startingleopard.blogspot.com, and you guys can go read it. And it predicts a lot of the same issues that are still, hover. I mean, you can see some of the shitty formatting, but so this type of carnage that's happening within the Democratic Party. I'm talking about kind of rhetorical carnage, where you have different factions that are basically stabbing each other in the back and spearing each other in the face. That's something that many people have predicted over the years. And why is that happening? Well, the Democratic Party has promised the world to people. And I think I'm going to go into that in a little more detail one day. I don't know when I'll get the chance because it's a very busy time to be involved in this type of work. But I was listening to a channel earlier. I'll give you the name so you can check it out yourself. And it wasn't a right wing channel. It wasn't a. I mean, it was first of all, it seemed like a progressive black person. His name is Bob TV, and the guy is very. In fact, he's very much a fan of Ocasio-Cortez, and he was ragging on Kamala Harris, basically taking out all the frustration of a lot of black voters. This guy isn't so young, but a lot of black male voters simply don't look at her as any sort of figure to be in any way validated by the black community. They feel that the sooner the black community divorces themselves from Kamala Harris, the better it will be for them. And basically, he was attacking Roland Martin and other, mouthpieces for the Democratic establishment. And I started to wonder why is it that the backlash is so severe against Kamala Harris, even though you can understand given her history with the criminal justice system, being an attorney general. Why is it that black people, black men especially, have such a resentment against her? And he started going into this DOS issue. The DOS, for those of you that don't know, in the black community, some of them call themselves the descendants of slaves, DOS, and they are very much in favor of reparations, a policy that I oppose. I don't think reparations brings closure to anyone. I don't think they're looking for closure. I think they're looking for basically, they call it restorative justice, but you can't restore something that never existed. Okay, you're the restorative justice, if you really look at the language of what they're talking about, would mean basically returning the descendants of slaves to where they came from. and where the ancestors came from. And I don't think that that's a realistic or humane thing to ask for people to return. I mean, this was attempted in the 19th century when a number of slaves were sent back to Liberia. But where's the logic in this? Okay, the logic in why this is developing. I was thinking that one of the reasons that this is erupting at the moment has to do with the nature of Afro-American studies, Black studies, whatever you want to call it, in universities. They constantly tell these people who enroll in these courses, especially, of course, the Black people who go to those courses and are, they might get a degree in it. They tell them, well, we're fighting to get ours back and get justice and get these reparations and everything. So there's people who they dedicate their entire college curriculum to the cause of restorative justice. Okay, and that, in my opinion, is where you see the beginning of this perpetual anger machine that eventually just comes back to show that the people who have promoted it don't really intend to provide the closure that those people who believe in this want. Okay, so to explain what I just said, these people have been in these courses for many, many years. So in some cases, I'd have to assume that there's 2 generations, maybe even 3 generations of the same family that have gone through this Black Studies curriculum that is calling for restorative justice and reparations, and they haven't gotten it. And why haven't they gotten it? When in some cases you've had Democrats in control of both Congress and the presidency under President Clinton and President Obama. Well, the reason that they're not going to get it is because it's really just a sales pitch. Okay, it's a sales pitch to get people to vote for the Democrats. It's the same as in many elections. I'm a pro-gun person, very pro-gun. I hope you are too. In many elections, the NRA will come out and they'll say, "Hey, we're gonna repeal these laws. You're gonna be whatever." Then they'll also say, "Well, the government's coming to take your guns." Now, in some cases, it's true. I would say, especially in these times, you should probably note that, yes, that rhetoric is true. But it's a sales pitch, okay? You have to understand, in some cases, a sales pitch is nothing more than that. And in the case of reparations and restorative justice, so far as the Democratic Party is concerned, it's just a sales pitch. What's up, Mad Dodge? How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Mad Dodge Productions, by the way, also on YouTube. Check out his channel sometime. I wish I was going to stream longer. I would have you on, but it's kind of late. I wasn't planning to stream this late. So there was one candidate who did come out and said that she supports reparations for the descendants of slaves. I believe her name is let me see here. I can find her. It's Marianne Williamson, and she's some sort of heiress or maybe she's not an heiress. I don't remember what she does. It says she's a spiritual teacher, author, lecturer, entrepreneur, and activist. Okay, that makes sense. She's the founder of Project Angel Food, a volunteer food delivery program that serves homebound people with AIDS and other life-challenging illnesses. That's very nice. She is also the co-founder of the Peace Alliance, a non-profit grassroots education and advocacy organization supporting peace-building projects. In 2016, Williamson endorsed Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders for president in the Democratic primaries. On August 2nd, 2018, The Guardian reported that she was exploring the possibility of a presidential run in 2020 for the Democratic Party. On January 29th, 2019, Williamson announced she was running for the Democratic nomination for the 2020 United States presidential election. So she's significantly to the left of a number of other people that are running. She's definitely to the left of Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and Kirsten Gillibrand and maybe even Tulsi Gabbard. It says here, for years, Marianne was a member of the board of directors and remains a public supporter of results an organization aimed to create the political will to end hunger and poverty around the world. It lobbies public officials, does research, and works with the media and the public to address the causal issues of poverty. Results has 100 U.S. local chapters and works in 6 countries. So one of her positions is racial reconciliation. Williamson has been a public advocate in the areas of racial justice and race relations. She is known for leading public apologies for slavery and has encouraged paying reparations for slavery. Williamson has also worked in support of reforming the criminal justice system. So this is from, let me see here. Yeah, January 19th. So that, yeah, this is the white guilt candidate. This is the one that you guys have all been waiting for, I guess, to you know, all the white people have been waiting to say sorry, I guess. I think it makes absolutely no sense. By the way, if somebody wants to contribute, I have the Streamlabs link over here. No pressure, but, you know, it is there. So I am putting it in the chat. For those of you that do not have a problem with giving a couple bucks of restorative justice to the leopard. Just kidding. So in any case, she asked white people to apologize. White people. She walked to the middle of the stage, paused for a second, then asked all the black people to stand. The New York Times bestselling author, internationally known spiritual teacher, and native Houstonian was in town recently for her Love American tour at Unity of Houston. She urged the 200 of us from our seats. She then instructed a white person to hold the hand of a black person standing. A white woman and a teenage girl who looked to be her mother and daughter in the row behind me took my hand and arm. Williamson then told the white people to repeat after her. She began with, "I apologize. I was at Williamson's event to celebrate my birthday, January 15th, the same as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s. Each year I try to attend a talk, lecture, or event for my birthday that inspires and uplifts us as he did. This year it was Williamson's sellout talk at Unity Church with some 700 people in attendance. Her focus was on racism and politics, saying that until the United States addresses slavery honestly, gets deep about its enduring impact on African Americans, and makes amends, we will continue a cycle of hate and racism in this country." She cited Germany's efforts to apologize to Jewish people for the Holocaust and pay out billions in reparations. According to the New York Times, many Germans are not even aware that their country, after paying $89 billion in compensation, mostly to Jewish victims of Nazi crimes over 6 decades, still meets regularly to revise and expand the guidelines for reparations. The mission is to reach as many of the tens of thousands of elderly survivors who have never received any form of support. So a black woman stood up and told Williamson, who is Jewish, she was struggling to deal with the hurt and hate in her heart for white people because of racism. Williamson said one of the problems is that many white people are in denial about racism, don't want to talk about it, and want black people to get over it. She looks pretty good for, I think it said she's 66 years old. So, anyway, this is all I can take. This is fucking retarded. And it says my output is low, so I'm sorry if you guys are having interruption. But the fact is this, okay? And I came to, my family came to this country in the 70s and 80s. There are a lot of Americans whose parents and grandparents came here after the slavery ended. Okay, some dude who's a fucking Bosnian who came here after, like after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and has literally, he's white, but has literally nothing to do with slavery, is, they should write a letter to Marianne Williamson and tell her to go fuck herself, because this whole idea of racial apologism is complete garbage. Okay, it's the dumbest thing that's ever been conceived. This example of Germany giving reparations for the Jews is actually a bad example, because nobody forgave the Germans, and we're still seeing, the Germans. I don't think that I think that they did a horrible job, and they paid the price. If you really want to think about it, they really did pay the price for what they did. Now, some people say, well, they should have paid much, much more. But it doesn't matter, because the fact is that reparations do not bring closure. And Mad Dog says he's from Shreveport, which is in Louisiana. So I think he's alluding to the fact that he comes from Confederate stock. Look, Mad Dodge didn't enslave anyone. I think that's possibly why Mad Dodge does a lot of Civil War streams. But I think that people who have been born in recent generations have to realize that you can't rebuild what was never built in the first place. They want to have this notion that you're going to magically create this great society by paying a great amount of money to the descendants of a bunch of victims, because you feel guilty for something somebody else did hundreds of years before you lived. Okay, maybe it's less than 200 years, but there's some countries where slavery only ended about 50 years ago, and nobody's demanding from them reparations. It's the biggest nonsense you've ever seen. Okay, I want to say to the white people out there, and the Mexicans, and the black people, if you see people like this spouting their nonsense, you can rest assured that what they're really going to end up doing is wrecking the economy entirely. Not just because of the reparations, but that's only one part of it. It's the whole bait and switch. Okay, look, I don't think that the Confederates were, I don't really believe in the Confederate side of the Civil War. I think that in many cases, these people who were slave owners were trying to get away with abusing people for as long as they could. And, some people say, yes, the Confederacy was a states' rights issue. Well, it doesn't matter, because, in my opinion, you still have the issue of human slavery underneath it, okay? Now, the fact is that we had to end the slavery practice with a civil war. Other countries didn't require it, okay? I believe Brazil, for example, ended up freeing their slaves without the need of a civil war. So this is all academic, historical prognostication. You could probably check out Mad Dodge's channel. He deals a lot with the military history of the war and some of the other issues. But I'm not, these people are still trying to relitigate the Civil War as if that's the pressing issue of the 21st century, without realizing that you have some of the most prominent leaders in America, the ones that have accomplished the most. They happen to be black people. Some cases they have to be Mexican, like Enrique Iglesias. Okay, great American leader. Gets a lot of ladies wet. So it's time for people to just be forthright and actually move on, because Marianne Williamson is just she's a very nice lady, but she's only looking out for a part of the country. Okay, she's looking out for the part of the country that she considers victims. And if she has to consider part of the country to be victims, she has to consider the other part of the country to be culprits or accomplices. And that's not a leader for an entire country. That's a leader for some sort of bloodbath. Okay, that's what I see when I see people like Williamson, and I see other leaders that are promising all sorts of ridiculous restorative justice nonsense. The Green New Deal, by the way. So getting back to that, what the hell possesses people to buy into these programs that, even on the packaging, it almost says we are going to ruin your entire life. Okay, that's my question. I don't know what you guys are thinking. Okay, And we should probably do a longer stream some other time. Have one of you guys on. Doesn't matter who. DI Freighter, what's up? I think yeah, yesterday I think I heard your phone call, by the way, to HB. There has to be a discussion about how is it that people are suckered in to programs that are almost guaranteed to screw them over, which is the case of the Green New Deal. With the reparations, I can understand, because a lot of people could be suckered in by people telling them, hey, it's going to be free money or whatever. It's never free, because they're always going to ask you for something else. They're always going to demand from you some sort of commitment in order to make it work. Okay? And ultimately, I think my mom, who came here, she was she was a nurse. A lot of people who have been through the nursing profession, they know it basically sucks the life out of you. You see a lot of people are a lot of people who you take care of, you basically have to let go of. That's something that she used to tell me. She did not come here because she wanted to spread universal health care to the United States. She came here because it was a much better place to be a healthcare professional than anywhere else in the world. Now, I'm not going to say everywhere in the country it is, but it's still better than, for example, in countries like in South America. In the countries like Argentina, especially. Yeah, there's countries where all of these ideas have been attempted. Maybe not the reparations, but a lot of these other ideas have been attempted. And those countries, maybe the healthcare is right. Maybe one of the other state-run industries is manageable, and maybe the costs are lower. But is the quality better? Is the quality of life better? Is the transparency better? Are we seeing a greater level of civic engagement than before? No, you're not. They always point to Scandinavia. Well, when they moved to Scandinavia and actually try to adapt to living there, I would be a little more, believing of their pitch. Their sales pitch right now is empty. It's garbage. I would never, ever, ever believe in my life that somebody like, for example, let's throw a name out there. Somebody like Tim Black, who, I respect some of his content. I don't really like his opinions, but I respect some of his content. I don't think he would move to a place like Denmark and set up shop there. These people who they claim that we have to accept all these migrants from the third world, and that they can magically adopt to life in a country like this one, which is an English-speaking country, which is a country based on British common law. They don't understand. They themselves wouldn't move to Denmark and adapt to the Danish culture. They wouldn't do it because they prefer our society. They might not want to say that. They might want to deny it. They might want to portray themselves as being more open-minded than they actually are. But in reality, when when it's Super Bowl Sunday, you see them on their fat asses, just like you and me, watching a bunch of overpaid millionaires throwing a ball across the field. They're culturally American. They've adapted to this society, and they behave the way that we behave in this society. And if they were to move to those countries over there, they would probably burn out. They wouldn't be able to sustain that type of living. First of all, the diet isn't even the same. Okay, they could. I'm not going to say that none of them could, but the fact is that none of them are trying. So that's my approach to even like something as minor as moving to one of these like socialist, social democratic countries, let alone the New Deal, which they're pretending. These are people that in many cases they're not used to going to work in anything besides their flip-flops. So I think I'm going to close. So you guys can still tip me at Streamlabs, but in either case, I do want to thank you guys for tuning in this Sunday night. I will try. Hold on. I will try this week to do something with a simulcast on Stream Me as well as Periscope. Try to get it to work. I was hoping it would be this time, but it didn't happen that way. But I figured out a way to. I figured out which tool you use to do it. So we'll try that. But yeah, this is a depressing time to look at the people just getting suckered in every time. So yeah, thank you for DI Freighter, Mad Dodge as always. Good guy, and Chris, and yeah, I think you guys are the only ones who messaged. So take it easy and have a great week.